all kinds of goodies. Oh, well, welcome to the San Jose Buddhist Temple. Let's go in and we'll spend a little bit of time sharing. Okay?
Okay, hats off when you go in, please. Hats off.
And when we enter, bow as you enter. Yeah. Things that he was enjoying really kind of got in the way of trying to understand who he was as a human being. So the night before he left, they had a big party at his house or at his castle, and everybody was enjoying. They're all beautifully, beautiful clothes on, every nice hair, like jewelry, and everybody came very happy. And then as the night wore on, people got tired, and some would fall asleep sitting on a couch somewhere in a chair. And as the night wore on, Siddhartha saw how when we are not awake, we kind of let things go. So people who look so beautiful a few hours ago, now they're sleeping and they're like this, and their clothes are all kind of rumpled and they're drooling, and so all of the kinds of things that we put on us, right, to make us look something different other than who we are. He left all of that behind. He left that behind, trying to find what is the real who we are, and that's why he left that behind. He had a friend that kind of was his assistant. And he left everything with his assistant, his horse, all of his fine clothes and jewelry. He left that with his friend. They walked out of the castle late at night after the party was over, and he decided he would go. And he went with his friend, and he left all of that behind to try and really seriously think about why we're like this. Why do we experience difficulties in our lives? Okay, other question? It's easily scratched and it comes right off. You can hardly see how much. It's a very thin layer, but you can see how the scratch here. Right? Somebody accidentally opening this drawer. This is very thin layer. You can see here how it's going to scratch. So the base again is wood, and then there's a lot of lacquer that's up there, but the gold that you see is this thin layer of gold leaf that has been placed on. We had a 100th anniversary celebration in, what year would we have had our 100th anniversary celebration? We were founded in 2000, no, not 2000. We were founded in 1902. So when would our centennial be?
2002.
Yes. So in 2002, we had our celebration, our centennial celebration. And at that time, we did some renovation and repair. And one of the things that we did was we took down a lot of the articles that are in here. And then, an artisan actually came from Japan. Again, this tradition traces its origins back to Japan. And so our headquarters is there. But there's an artisan that came for about a 3-year period. Every few months, he would come and do some repairs. And then just before the centennial, about maybe half a year before the centennial, we took some of the pieces down sent it back to Japan to have it cleaned, repaired, and then brought back again. So the artisan, Mr. Ito, was here to take everything down, pack it all up, and send it to Japan. And then he returned with all of these articles and helped put them back up again. So these pieces here, these are called, these are transit pieces, they're called the Ramma. They used to be kind of dingy, but when it was sent back, it was actually washed. It's wood, but it was actually, they call it sentaku, where they wash the articles and then repainted. The gold that's up there on the Dhamma, I think that's the original that was there when this place was, when this temple was built. But there was a lot of the paint had been kind of deteriorated, so it was repainted.
Believe in a God, and if you do, could you explain to the Cub Scouts what a God is?
Okay, so Buddhism's focus is not on whether there is a God or there isn't a God. Buddhism doesn't say there is a God, nor does Buddhism say there is not a God. The kind of God that is understood this in monotheistic traditions, where there is a single God, Yahweh, or in the Abrahamic traditions, right? There isn't a God like that that's affirmed in Buddhism. Buddhism's focus is on how do we resolve the difficulties that we cause and experience. And if that question leads you to God, then that's fine. Buddhism wouldn't deny that it's not good. Wouldn't say that was not good. Buddhism simply asks this question: how do we resolve these difficulties that we cause and experience? So, if you come from another tradition into Buddhism, that's fine. There was a long tradition of Buddhists and Jews being exchanging ideas, having conversations over time. There was, in fact, the Dalai Lama that convened many years ago, convened a kind of a large discussion in Dharmasala before Dharmasala was still, you could go in. But he convened these very well-known Jewish leaders and Buddhist leaders to talk about how we might be able to better understand each other. So Buddhism doesn't say there is no God, nor does Buddhism say there is a God. The question that Buddhism focuses on is how do we resolve the difficulties we cause and experience. So if that leads you to God, then that's fine. There's no, Buddhism is not going to say, oh, that's bad. Buddhism says, we begin with this question, right? How do we resolve these difficulties we cause and experience? Okay, thank you.
May we have a picture with you?
Sure.
Thank you.
You wanna line up here? Everybody line up here, and then. One of the things that people often ask us too is, what does this say? What does this say? This plaque. It has 3 characters. The first character is kai. The middle one is ho, and the last character is zo. So it reads from the top to bottom, kai ho zo. Kai means to open up. Ho is the teachings of the Buddha, and the zo is storehouse. So to open up the Dharma storehouse for the sake of all beings, to share, to be kind, to be compassionate, and to share in the teachings. Okay, bye.
for me?
That's for you. What do you say to her? Okay, now give her a card.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good morning, Scouts and parents.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for coming to Temple Emanu-El. We're going to start off in the sanctuary and we will listen to the rabbi for a few minutes and then we'll go more exploring. Are we ready? Yeah. Okay, let's go meet the rabbi.
Have fun. All right.
That's big. That's big.
Howdy. Welcome. Come on in. Feel free to have a seat. Why don't you sit on this side there? There you go.
We got a thank you card.
Nice, nice. So we've been here a long, long time. And in fact, we've had 2 rabbis here that lived to over 100 years old. So it's pretty cool. Rabbi Gittin, of blessed memory, who was our emeritus rabbi when I came here and was very involved in the interfaith community in San Jose, lived to 104. So this is a Reformed Jewish synagogue. I don't know if you've ever heard of the difference between the different denominations of Judaism, but like Christianity, like in Christianity, you have different types, right? You have Catholicism, you have Protestantism, Methodists, Lutherans, all kinds. In Judaism, we have different denominations as well. And the largest movement of Judaism is actually Reformed Judaism, which we're part of here, and is the earliest of the modern movements created in the 1700s in Hamburg, Germany. A few years later, Orthodox Judaism was created, believe it or not, coming after Reform. And then Conservative Judaism was created after that. All 3 transferred to the United States, and eventually Reform takes kind of hold there. It's a growing movement still. Reform Judaism is the largest movement of Jews in the world, and modern Orthodox is probably the second growing. And basically the big differences between all of us is how we interpret the sacred scriptures, which are in there. So take a look at this building. This is the sanctuary, and it's a pretty basic one in many ways for the era it was built. You see that high ceiling? Well, churches and synagogues in the 50s were built with that. My former synagogue in San Diego had one of those also. It was kind of cool when I came here. Can you imagine a laserium in here? See laser light show here? Yeah, I would love that one. That'd be cool. I know, they haven't gone for it yet. That could be great. But anyway, you take a look. You see the stained glass windows there. That was one of the newest things added about 30 years ago. And until all this was redone. This is an example of the menorah. We have 2 of them. These are new for us. And the menorah is the oldest Jewish symbol found in our sacred scriptures, which we call the Torah. And that's Genesis through Deuteronomy, which should ring a bell to all of you. What Christians call the Old Testament is actually the Hebrew Bible. That's what the Old Testament is. If you all just stand for a moment, if you want, come on up. Just over here. This is called the Bima. And we have different Torahs. One of them that we were using yesterday for our mitzvahs is in our chapel. That's why we're missing one of them right now. But these are 2 of our Torahs. These are the crowns. You can touch it if you want. These are the crowns that go on there. And we adorn the Torah so that it's felt, so it's treated with, or viewed as something really special. And what's interesting is that the clothing on the Torah replaces what the priests used to wear during the temple period. And when the priestly and the temple was destroyed in 586 and then 70 CE, priests were we stopped priests in our tradition, and eventually Pharisees and then rabbis took the leadership after that. And so we took that which was on the priests, we put it onto the Torah here. Pretty interesting, huh? Deb, can you go in the chapel and get the yod on the Torah? That you'll see it in there. Thanks, I want to show them that. So this is a yod, meaning hand in Hebrew. You can touch it. And this is what we use to read the Torah. We don't traditionally touch the Torah because it's holy.
That's spiky.
It can be a little spiky, yeah. What you do is you hold it like that. So you hold it like this, then you read the Torah. You want to hold it? Go for it.
I'm gonna try. Can I try?
Here's another crown.
That's the bag. Okay, that's a lot more. She doesn't want it.
So what is that? Does that look like anything? So you see the crown, right? These are supposed to be like pomegranates. Isn't that wild? Pomegranates is one of the fruits that are from the Bible. And according to one of the traditions, although it's not necessarily true, hold on one second, sweetie. There are 613 commandments in our Torah. There's supposed to be 613 seeds in a pomegranate. You ever counted it up, I guarantee you that's not correct. Not that I've done it. I feel free to count up all the seeds. Go ahead.
I'm not using
So this is a breastplate that would have gone over the priest as well. So if you take a look at the breastplate, you'll see also it can open up and you'll see a little mini Torah in there. This is supposed to be a little mini ark. Just be careful this one. Yeah. Yeah, just be careful. Now, this is really neat. This is our oldest yacht. This was created in the synagogue. This was donated in the synagogue in 1861. So we take a look, 1870, sorry. So about 9 years after our establishment, there it is. And every kid that becomes a bar bat mitzvah, or adult who becomes a bar mitzvah, uses this yacht.
Do you see how it's a pointing finger?
See that? Yeah. Look at the hand, look at the finger.
Because your hand is not supposed to touch the actual Torah scroll, so you touch it with the yod.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Cool. So let me take these. We'll put these back in here. There you go. Any questions? Yeah. Please. Really good question.
There's a what?
So that is the ark, Arona Kodesh. You'll see above it is actually what's called the Ner Tamid. That's the light. That's one of the oldest symbols we have. In the Jewish tradition, there's always a light in the sanctuary to remind us that God's presence is with us. So it's kind of a really creative one. This one was just made about 4 years ago. That Ner Tamid. Above it, you'll see a depiction of the Ten Commandments. Those are not the original commandments, I assure you. But you'll see in many synagogues that there'll be some depiction of the Ten Commandments. Why? Because it reminds Jews that the most important thing about being Jewish is being an ethical, moral person, being a good person. That's what we say being a good Jew is being a mensch. And mensch is Yiddish or German for a good person. Yeah?
What is that thing up there?
Which one?
Up there.
You know, is it the light you're talking about or the Ten Commandments I just referred to?
The thing that looks like a rhinestone with leaves.
Yep, that's the Ner Tamid. It's a light. You see the light bulb in it? Is that what you're referring to?
Fire? No, the other
Above that?
above it.
Yeah, that's the Ten Commandments I just talked about.
No, like the sand carvings up there.
Oh, these 5 things here? Is that what you're asking about? I think you weren't, but they are. Yeah, the Ten Commandments. Yeah. Those are written in Hebrew, and those are the first 2 or 3 words of each of the commandments. In the book of Exodus and Deuteronomy, we find the commandments. There's 2 versions of it. You'll see up here, that's a really good question. See, these are probably one of the oldest sculptures we have in the sanctuary. If you take a look at them, they represent 5 holidays. 5 of the most important holidays we have in the Jewish tradition. All the way to the left would be the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, which is coming up for us in about 4 weeks. From there, you move to the second from the left, that's Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. And you'll see the Tetragrammaton, or God's name, Yud Hey Vav Hey, on the upper left-hand corner. The middle one is also part of the high holidays. We call it Sukkot, Festival of Booths. That occurs also right after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And that's the time where we remember the time we were in the desert and we were in the wilderness. And traditionally we live in Sukkot booths for a week. And then second to the right would be Passover. Those are the 4 cups of wine you can see there. And all the way to the right would be Shavuot, which is what we call the holiday of Theophany, the time when Moses received the commandments and actually the entire Torah on Mount Sinai. There's a holiday that comes 49 days after Passover called Shavuot, very similar to Easter and Pentecost. Easter and Pentecost is based on the Jewish concept of Shavuot, Passover to Shavuot. Question? Yeah. What? Whoa, that's a big question. It's a good question. In our tradition, we don't have one answer. Traditional Jews would give you one answer. Yahweh, the God of the Bible, is God. But Reformed Jews like myself don't believe there's one answer. In fact, there's a lot of Reformed Jews that don't believe in God. They believe that God was created to kind of answer questions that we can't answer ourselves. Others believe that God started the Big Bang cosmology, the creation of our universe and evolution. And all that was created by God originally. But that's all that God did. Now it's on us to finish the work of creation. We believe as Jews that we're in partnership with God, that we have to finish the work on the planet. It's not going very well, by the way. There's a lot of environmental issues we've got to deal with, I think. Good question. Yeah, this is there. So you see this there? There's one there. That's a really good question. It is based on, it's the Star of David, and we believe that it was the symbol of King David's army. That's where it comes from. And so, exactly, during the time of King David. In terms of archaeological discoveries, that's as far back as we've really found in Israel, is to David's dynasty. Nothing really earlier than that. So we have some stuff we found. We have a Tel, the Reform movement's been dealing with Tel Dan in the north, and that's where we found some of the coins from King David and some other stuff. So it's kind of cool, and that was on there. So it was the shield of David, probably for his army. Yeah, and so it's now a symbol of Judaism, probably equal to the cross for Christians, I think. Yeah.
So each one of these has a name, right? Here's the six or more Hebrew letters about the beginning of the world. Everything was chaos, and then it formed into Chaim.
Kels, please make sure you don't touch anything, okay? Don't touch anything. Please make sure you...
A priest or a minister who will wear a shawl. Well, it probably comes out of this tradition. And so this is a talit, and it has fringes, and the fringes are tied in very special knots. Can you see these little knots? The fire engines, they look a little different from the fire engines we have today. So, this is one of the founders of our congregation. When you look at him, who does he look like a little bit?
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln. Excellent answer. Your teachers would be proud of you.
Abraham Lincoln.
It's not actually Abraham Lincoln, but his name is Jacob Levy. But that was the style where they shaved the mustache in the mid-1860s, which is when this congregation was founded. So you can see that there really is a historical connection.
So this is over like almost 200 years old?
The glass, yes.
Wow. 200 years old.
Any other ideas, parents? Can chime in. Oil!
speaking with the parents only. I did not know that the kids are here. I'll try to explain it as simple as possible, okay? I will talk about our church, okay? So, we are a religious organization here at St. Elizabeth. We are a faith-based organization, which means we are the Catholic Church, okay? This is our belief. The Catholic Church is worldwide. It is found all over the world, except in those places where the free exercise of religion is prohibited. Okay, you can talk about Saudi Arabia, for example. There are places where the church is also persecuted. That's why we have the underground church. The church is there, but it is not seen from the outside. Okay? So, our faith is based on the teachings of Jesus Christ. Okay? So, it is a religious institution, and we base everything on what Jesus Christ has taught. Okay? So, it was Jesus who founded the church. Did you know that the church is the largest Christian denomination or religious organization in the whole world? Okay? As of, what year was that? As of September 2021, the number of those who consider themselves Catholic all over the world is 1.3 billion. Okay? So we are a big force in the world. Okay? This is the Catholic Church. And who is the head of the Catholic Church? Who do you think? No. I'm the head here in St. Elizabeth. But who do you think is the head of the church?
The Pope? No?
The Pope. Very good. So it is headed by the Pope. Why is the Pope? Because the Pope is the representative of Christ to the world. Okay? You see, when Jesus established his church, he told Peter, Peter, you are rock, and on this rock I will build my church. Okay? So it was through the Pope that Jesus built his church. Okay, now, we say that the church is not democratic by nature. It is hierarchical. We have certain hierarchy in the church. I don't know how to explain that in a more simple term to all of you. Okay? In your house, who is the head of your house? Your mom? Or who is the head of the household? Mom? Your dad? Okay, whoever it is, grandma? Okay, but who has direct supervision on you? Your parents, right? So you have your dad, the head of the household. You have your mom who works with your dad, and they provide for you. Now, the church, we have one head, who is the Pope. Okay? What is the name of our Pope? Anybody? Who is the present Pope now? Pope Francis. Okay? Now, where does the Pope reside? Where is the Pope based? In the Vatican. Okay? So where is the Vatican? It's within Rome. Okay? So, the church, it is a religious organization, but the Pope, the head of the church, is also a head of the state. Okay? He's like the head of the state is the president or the prime minister. So the Pope is the head of the Vatican state. That's why every time he travels, the head of state welcomes him in that particular place where he's traveling, because like President Biden or President Trudeau from Canada, they are all on the same league because as they are the head of US, head of Canada, the Pope is the head of the Vatican State. Okay? Who is God? God is the Creator. Now, we cannot see God because that is part of faith. Faith is an assurance of things that are not seen. Okay? That's why faith is a mystery. Okay? However, we see God in the person of other people. Because God has manifested Himself through His Son, Jesus Christ. Because God is there, that's why He wanted to become like, to appear to us. That's why we have Jesus Christ. So God the Father, Jesus the Savior, and Holy Spirit, the Comforter, the Sanctifier. That's why our vision of God is based on who Jesus Christ is. So Jesus came to tell us about God the Father, right? When He spoke, my Father, you know, it is not for me to decide, but my Father decides. Okay? So we have one God in three persons. Now, when people ask me, where do you put God in your life? And we say, you know, we carry God in our hearts. When we become good, when we become loving, when we become patient, when we become kind, then God lives in us. Okay? Now, in the church, the life of God in us is called grace. Okay? The grace, sanctifying grace. The grace that we receive in our baptism. When we are baptized in the church, we receive the grace of God. Okay? The grace of God gets infused in our soul. That's why Jesus lives within us, because we have been baptized. Okay? So that's why when we sin, when we become bad, when we become evil, God is not with us. That's why we try to confess, we repent, we strive to be better, then God comes back to us. Okay? So we can say that God is with us.